But that's okay. So Warren Mabee is our next presenter, and let me introduce you just for a minute here. He's Associate Director of Adapting Canadian Work and Workplaces Project. He's led major projects looking at the future of energy across Canada. He's involved in Biofuel Net and the Trottier Energy Futures Project, as well as the International Energy Agency. He holds a Canada Research Chair in Renewable Energy Development and Implementation. And the title of his presentation this evening is Energy Use and Work, Expected Canadian Shifts Towards 2050. There's a brief description of Warren in your leaflet here, and given our time constraint, I'll turn things over to you. And remember, I do have the cards. The cards.
Yeah, I got it. Yep. While they're switching the slides, I just wanted to say that while Bruce was up, I was watching the clock over there on that screen, and it went from 1806 to 1815, and it reminded me of being a student and sitting in this room when it was the drill hall, and thinking I had 15 minutes left to do my exam, and discovering I was out of time. So just keep that in mind. There are many ghosts of unhappy undergrads walking the halls here who wrote and failed and struggled through exams, including me. So, thank you very much. It's a real delight to be here tonight to be able to talk to you just for a few minutes about energy use and work. I'm going to spend most of my time talking about energy. When I think of climate and the climate issue in front of us, I think of it in terms of the energy challenge. We have a big problem in front of us. We have to figure out a way to transition from all this fossil use to something that will look a bit greener, and I think it's helpful to look at the problem. So this is what the world looks like today. In 2013, about 565 exajoules of energy in the total supply. Energy consumption around the world is going up by about 2% a year. This is from the IEA, International Energy Agency stats. Coal has gone up by about double that, close to 4% a year since 2010. Oil is going down, which you may wonder about. I'm going to talk about it a bit more in a few minutes. Nuclear is going down. This is largely due to Fukushima and the fact that Japan idled their nuclear fleet, and Germany is starting to ramp back their nuclear fleet. The world has about 13% renewable energy across the board, the majority of which is biomass. And this is not high-tech biomass. This is people burning wood in a fireplace or in a stove and heating their house and cooking their food. There's a little bit of advanced biofuels and stuff mixed in there, but for the most part, we're not doing a particularly good job there. Bit of hydro, a little bit of other renewables, a small nuclear fleet, and the rest, the big three, is fossil. Germany, about 13 exajoules, about 2% of the global energy supply, not a big energy consumer actually. Energy consumption is going down, coal consumption is going up. Oil is going down. Same story that we're seeing worldwide. Nuclear is way down, and this is all to do with idling things. Germany is often held up as a leader in renewable energy development. They are behind the world average in renewable energy. That is true. They are behind the world average. The United States, 16% of the world's energy, 92 exajoules, give or take. Energy use is going down, about 0.4% a year. Coal is down 4.5% or so since 2010. Oil is down. Natural gas is going up. This is the Obama effect and the fact that they've got big structural unemployment problems. 6% renewables going up about 4% a year. The United States has put more money into renewable energy development than any other nation in the world, probably all other nations combined in the world. They're having a very difficult time turning a corner and growing that renewable piece. There is a problem there, a structural problem with the way that they consume energy, and they're having a difficult time addressing it. China, 22% of the world's energy, 126 exajoules, the biggest single player now. Energy consumption is going up by 7.5% a year since 2010. That's just starting to fall off a little bit now. Coal is going up by about 7.5%. Oil is going up. The only nation in this little roundup where oil is really rising. Natural gas has gone up by almost 20% a year because China is trying to green their energy supply. But they still are using almost 70% coal in their total energy mix. They have 9% renewables in the mix right now. They went up a lot when the Three Gorges Dam came online and they were able to put that energy into play. China is emblematic of the biggest problem. You know, in these nations that are growing so quickly, coal is king, and coal dominates the problem. Here's Canada. 2% of the world's energy. We are increasing in energy consumption by about 0.2% a year, that should be matched up against population growth of about 1.2% a year. Oil is going down, coal is going down, natural gas has come up. In almost all the nations I've shown you, oil is going down. Why is that? We're seeing a real shift in the way that we use oil and oil products, particularly a reduction in the number of kilometers that the average citizen is driving. Young people don't drive as much. In the United States, they are now seeing it as a permanent trend, a decline in oil consumption. They do not see big growth in their vehicle fleet. What they do see is a big growth in things like vehicle ride sharing, Uber, and the like. Canada has 19% renewables in the mix. We are greener than almost all of our peers. And it is very hard to go into the Prime Minister's office, or it has been very hard to go into the Prime Minister's office. Well, mostly because, they don't let you in. But it's hard to tell somebody that you need to do better when you're better than everybody else. It's hard to tell people that you got to move forward when you're already doing better. And it's because we were blessed and we have Niagara Falls, etc., etc. But that is basically the story of energy. This really summarizes the challenge. Fossil fuels dominate. Roughly 75 to 80% of energy is fossil-based. Even in countries like Canada, where we're really green, we use an awful lot of fossil energy. Israel and Canada. Well, Israel and Canada do share a common problem across the OECD, which is population growth. We grow faster than most of the OECD countries, more than we can really handle. One of the big problems that Canada has is that our intensity of energy use tends to fall, but our population rises and it cancels out anything that might happen. So, climate drivers. I wanted to say, we have a new Minister of Environment, and for the first time in Canadian history, it's not just a Minister of Environment, it's a Minister of Environment and Climate Change, which is, a little bit of a token, but an emblem of what this new government wants to do. We're allowed to talk about climate change, Bruce brought that up. We have had a big problem with our greenhouse gas emissions. Depending on which numbers you believe, we're now sitting up around 725, 730 megatons of emissions. And it's not for lack of planning, because we have planned and planned and planned, and never have we been able to stick to a plan. Arguably because we put forward aspirational targets without any clear concept of how we were going to get there. Remember what I said, we're already greener than most countries out there. What for other countries are low-hanging fruit, for us doesn't exist. We can't grow our hydro because we've already grown our hydro about as far as it can go, and so on. This is where we sit right now. We have a goal of getting to 17% below our 2005 emissions by 2020. People are saying that that's the floor. I would argue with you that that is most certainly the ceiling. There is no way on God's green earth that we can get down to that level without radical changes, because we have fallen so far off the curve. Yes, we'll say it's the floor. We're good at saying that we're going to do stuff. But to get there is going to be very, very difficult. We're on track for more than 730 megatons by 2020. Here's our problem. That's what our emissions look like. A quarter of it is oil and gas. Thank you. 25% of those emissions. Light and heavy duty transport, electricity production. We have buildings, other industry, agriculture. If you just rank the problems by how big they are, that's the ranking. I'm not going to read it off again, but oil and gas is right up at the top. But if we look at growth, how these things are going to change, things look a little bit different. Heavy-duty transport and buildings are going to grow much faster than anything else in our emission portfolio over the next 8 years or so. More than oil and gas. We have a lot of things that are growing faster than population, which is a problem. It means that in a lot of sectors we're intensifying. I want you to pay attention to the last thing there. Electricity production. Those greenhouse gas emissions are dropping. When people talk about we got to address electricity, they've missed the boat. We've addressed electricity. We're moving forward on that. We need to address these other things. So stepping quickly because John's going to give me the hook. If we rank them again and we combine our ranks, we can see that oil and gas, buildings, heavy-duty transport, and light-duty transport round out our issues. Those are the things that we have to deal with. There are a few things that we can do. You know, right now we're pumping oil and we can green our oil pumping in the short term, but in the long term we probably have to deal with it a different way. We got to switch to renewables and do different things. We got to keep warm, and right now we're using natural gas mostly to do that. We got to figure out new ways to manage that. We got to go backwards. We got to move stuff. Right now we can do that maybe with biodiesel. We got to go to green diesel. We probably have to move less stuff. But that's a different issue. We have to move people. And right now we can do that with ethanol instead of gas. Eventually it's going to be electricity. I don't think we're going to be worrying about ethanol in cars because I think we're going to be driving on electricity. So, almost done. Critical impact. Employment opportunities when we develop all this renewable power, I'd say, are probably limited. And this is something we're going to have to wrestle with. You know, we're looking at, our calculations tell us we get about half a job per megawatt installed. And OPG, which is a generator, employs about 1.25 employees per megawatt installed. There's a big shift in the way that we employ people. The way that we use fuel is going to impact employment around auto manufacture. We're going to be making different kinds of cars. Oil and gas development, we may not be doing that at all. There's a whole bunch of policy pieces that need to be addressed. And I'm going to stop right there because I know that John is going to give me trouble here. And I'm going to say thank you and hand back to John.